Well, Alex, thank you so much for joining me today. Alex is a certified financial planner with Monkmeat Kramer, and I understand this month is your 16th year doing this, which is awesome. And I've had the pleasure of knowing you 5 of those years. We've been working together since January of 2019. You've been in lockstep with Peter and I as we've navigated some financial waters, and you've been invaluable. I mean, in terms of helping us to set milestones, achieve those, plan for future ones. And then when starting Cupalo, I needed a lot of hand holding. So you've been instrumental. And I've said this before. I'll say it again and again. I couldn't do this without you. So I am so grateful that you're in my life and you've been, like I said, as instrumental. So thank you so much for joining me today on Cupalo Conversations.
Of course. Well, thank you for having me. And I can't even believe that it's been 5 years already. I mean, that's crazy. That goes by so fast. And ultimately, it's just like remembering the first time I met you and Peter, and like I don't know, you can kind of sense there was like a tail between the legs kind of moment, like coming in the door, and I'm like, you had that look though that you're like you're ready to do it. And like at the end of the day, the people that ultimately work with us the best, I mean, are a combination of like DIYers, but then also like, all right, well, let's really figure out this last mile of what I need to do to make this happen. And it's been awesome to work with you guys and like to see your progress over time, and like now look at what we're doing. I mean, you we're doing a podcast for your own business. Like this is awesome. So I'm so excited for you.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I would love to know more about, your background and journey. And for people listening, I'd love to know, why did you decide to become a financial advisor?
I ultimately have always like been drawn to numbers, and I've been drawn to people. And in the end, it's this perfect combination for me. I guess I fell into the opportunity to have an internship in the the role that I hold now and for the last 16 years. And at that, I guess those first 6 months of meeting with people or sitting in on meetings that the other advisors were meeting with clients, and seeing the conversations and real conversations they're having with people, it meant a lot to me. And like to see how much influence you could have in someone's life, it means a lot. And like for me, like I really cherish, I guess, family and time with family, and then the ability to help others. And like this role for me has been able to do all of those things. So at the end of the day, I am a small business owner. Um, I kind of think of it in the terms of like, however much I want to put into this job, that's how much I can get back in income or time. And for me, I'm more on like, I want time with my family. I want time to enjoy life. But at the same rate, like I'm willing to help people kind of get to this kind of point in their life as well. Like, not everyone wants to be a small business owner. Not everyone wants to work for the man. To kind of beat around the bush, like I just like helping people, and like that's it. I mean, it kind of sounds cliche, maybe, but like that's why I'm here.
It's awesome. Well, and I'm living proof that you've kept up your end of the bargain. You've helped some people. So, well, you touched on something that is a frequent topic, and I want to really delve into this today. So, as you know, I largely deal mostly with a technical audience, folks that have been building software for most of their career, and that's the chosen profession, and or they've been leading development teams, they've been a part of the product development. So I have a lot of folks in my orbit, though, who are frankly miserable in their 9 to 5 and in their W 2. And you brought this up about working for the man. A big hesitation on the part of a lot of folks is, how do I go about doing that when I've got retirement savings and investments to think of, when I have health insurance to think of? How do you advise people who want to stick it to the man, but they're not exactly sure how to with those housekeeping things in mind?
You know, it's a hard thing, right? And I can imagine those 9 to 5ers, in especially the industry you're speaking of, aren't 9 to 5ers. I mean, they're 4 a.m.ers to 9 p.m.ers, and really they don't stop. And it's hard because like when you're in it, you see the goals or like the reviews with your mentors or even your supervisors, and you kind of see progress over time of like if you put in this, you get to this, and then you get to this, it, and it gets easier over time, but it really doesn't. In my experience in working with people, usually you get to that next level and there's just that much more stress that's piled onto you because now there's shorter deadlines or more deadlines because you're managing people, or you don't have the flexibility that you may want to have. You just got to put in the time early and then it's going to be all rainbows and butterflies. I mean, it's ultimately not. But like, you still have responsibilities in your life. And how do I set all of those aside to pursue something that I think I want, but I'm not really sure? How do I kind of get there? And that's where I kind of help people see that of like, okay, well, all right, let's strip this away. It's not like you can't just take a month off and figure this all out, which is hard, right? As you know, it's like you can't just shut it down and then be like, all right, now what? Um, but like what I look at is, all right, let's make a plan. Like, what do you want to achieve? What point do you want to get to? All right. So once we have that, now, you start to look at, you know, building out your professional team around it. So, like, once you know what your plan is, what you're trying to achieve, like, what are the potential risks or opportunities with that plan? Now, let's build out your team. So, building out your team, you're looking at accountant or your lawyer or a financial planner, potentially a realtor, and allow communication between them is like the most important thing that you could do. If you're the messenger with a not so technical knowledge set about XYZ, you're not going to be able to relay the information from your accountant to your financial advisor. More times than not, just those two people talking to each other, they're going to get done whatever you're going to get done in an hour in about 3 minutes. So, like, allowing open lines of communication, developing a strategy now with this team you've assembled. Like, what does business setup look like? What does cash flow and budgeting look like? Like, what's the minimum cost of like getting outside and doing this business? And then with all of our concern is what is the tax planning and tax ramifications of making all of the choices we're making. And that's where you can spend thousands of hours on the internet and probably find a lot of these answers. But at the end of the day, you're going to be so overwhelmed with the information at hand that you're not going to be able to make any decisions. And that's where, having this kind of team on your side is very important. And then, really easy next step is just begin, like, make your plan. We then kind of set a path of, all right, if it's, we need $20,000 to start this business, we need to build a website. Now we need to set that aside. Well, that's not only the only problem is, all right, now if I switch and I'm not working there any longer, what do I do then? I mean, I just lost out on maybe 10 to 15,000 a month of income that I was bringing in on the job I was bringing in. And how do I do that? So we start to look at, all right, how much reasonably could you potentially cut back your lifestyle in a certain period of time, set an end date and time of, okay, I want to get to this amount saved up for the initial business costs, but then replacement income needs that I would have, and then see what kind of runway we could get. It's really getting those like little baby steps along the way to get to that big end goal. And I will say that this process can go anywhere from 3 months to 2, 3 years. And like, it's not immediate. And you just have to kind of know that, going in. And it's really up to you as the individual of like, how much time and effort do I want to put into this right now? How important is this to me to make this happen? And I see more times than not the people that put in the time and effort, such as you, it's like, it's done. Like, I don't know how many, every time I talk to you, you're like, oh, I read another book and this is what I learned from that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to start reading more, because every time I talk to you, it's like this feeling of guilt that I'm not reading enough. But like, just if you're willing to learn, there's enough content out there to help you progress to the next step that you want to get to. And it's really in the end kind of believing in yourself that you can do it.
Yeah, I think though we touched on something that is a little bit, I think, less mainstream, which is that people do need help. I needed help to do this. Like you need a team. And you brought this up, earlier. It's just that, having someone like you to guide, having someone like a tax planner, having a good attorney. And if you are going to have, a brick and mortar, having a good, real estate agent. And I don't think that's really talked about. We live in a culture that's, everything we do should be marketable and you should be making money off it. But it's not that easy, to your point. It's not that easy to just spin up a product or market yourself. And it's really hard to navigate some of the waters of business establishment, which is why I do not pretend, and I will never pretend to have done this on my own. I had a lot of hand holding from you and others. And like your point about even designing a website, am I capable of going on WordPress and creating a website? Sure, but it would look like shit, like it would. And so having, a professional marketing and brand, guide to do this and to do the work is just it was essential. So that's a long-winded way of saying I think it's an unpopular opinion to get help early on and to take the time, to your point, take the time to do it right. If it takes months, if it takes years, but it isn't as easy to just abandon ship, kick it to the man, stick it to the man or whatever, and go start your own thing. It isn't that easy. There's a lot of good steps that can go into it. So what about for people though, is it something that you would encourage? I guess, for people like you mentioned who have the grit, the tenacity, the patience, is it something you would encourage, or is there something really good about staying with a company, staying in corporate America a long time? I guess you've seen a lot of people. What do you think about those who work for themselves versus those who work for others? How do they fare later in life? I think that's I'm still curious about that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think ultimately the ones that do take the leap, and go own their own business, create their own business, are the ones that are just genuinely happiest. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're making a lot more money, doesn't really mean that they're working more or less, but generally it is they're working less and that makes them happier. However, they're earning what they need to be earning to live the lifestyle that they want. And at the end of the day, if you create a successful business, not only do you get to earn the income while you're working in it, you get to sell it and you have an asset. Your best ROI is yourself. And like, you are constantly iterating on yourself. I mean, think of it when you own your own business or when you are working for yourself and you are the first and last person to answer to. That is like what the, I guess, hidden secret is of working for yourself, is like you're now building on yourself and you're having to learn, payroll. You're going to have to learn marketing. You're going to have to learn, client service. You're going to have to learn sales. You're going to have, like, at the end of the day, you have the control then. Like, the control is all yours. It is in your lap to do whatever you want with it. And that can be really scary. And I know that there's a lot of people that are like, I don't think I could do it. The main goal or main point here is control. If you are able to step out and go down that path to build your own business, you are in control. And more times than not, people that have control, especially around their own outcome, are the happiest. And That's kind of how I operate with clients, and working that whole thought process through is like, what's the life that you want to create? Because if you don't think about it and go through it, you're just going to live the life that you're currently living, which could be great. And I'm not saying that it's not. I just, when you have more control over it, better things can happen.
I mean, it's only been a short journey for me so far, but I've already seen tremendous upswing, not necessarily financially speaking, but in the merits that you described, which is the control component, the autonomy to really make decisions. And that also means owning failure. You run into so many things you haven't had to before, and learning that, that constant process of learning. It's like, it's hard to say this, but it's true. Every day I feel like an idiot. Like, frankly, just I'm just an idiot. I just don't understand things. And I, I I'm not just being self-deprecating. The fact is I don't know. And so it will take time and effort to do so, to learn and grow and figure it out. But having people in your corner, having a team like yourself in that corner to be able to go to, and does end up, it shortens that process a little bit, some of the agony, but it also provides, you provide great feedback and reassurance and support. So I think, to your point, this is something that if people really want to do it, they should find their team, they should find their support system, and also an emotional support system, because it's so grueling,
For sure.
and that's really important. So, you mentioned earlier that I'm a bit of a bookworm, and that's true. I mentioned it last time we talked, and it really struck me. But Die with Zero by Bill Perkins, he talks a lot about, it was a humbling read. Essentially, it's emphasizing our finitude. We only have so many years on this earth, and we've been sort of programmed to save and save and save for retirement, because we're going to need it then. And I think we also are in this constant war with YOLO, right? We only live once. Let's spend the money now. I imagine this is one of the most challenging conversations that you have, most complex ones with your clients. If I had to put myself in your shoes, that balancing out, how do people spend their money so they enjoy it while they have, especially health. That's something Bill Perkins emphasized. Like, we only have so many years where we're going to enjoy, you know, traveling around Europe, where our knees are working great and we don't mind sleeping on a shit mattress for a few nights. But when we get into our 80s and 90s, we might be a lot less tolerant of that. So there's a window here. How do you help people understand what's your philosophy for saving for the future, when you're going to need that money when you're not earning, versus spending while you're making it, and enjoying the money you're making while you're still able to do so?
For sure. Well, and it's that age old question of like, when am I gonna die? Like, we don't know, and that's what's so hard. Is like, I look all day. I shouldn't say I look all day. I look all the time at statistics, right? And statistics of, all right, you have two healthy 65-year-olds, and there's a 50% statistical chance that one of them lives till 92, 93, whatever it is. And so, like, we're planning income for 30 years, and essentially, I like to say to clients, like, I would love to help you bounce your last check, on your way out the door. But, there's so many variables that can happen in the next 30 years that I need to operate in a better capacity to be more, you know, uh, conservative with how we're giving you back income, or like how we are planning cash flow for the next 30 years. Like, one third of our lives is spent working. 90,000 hours is like our working life on average. Okay, so you're working 90,000 hours and you hate what you're doing. Why are you showing up? And like, that's just kind of like some of those things I talk through with clients of like, okay, well, what do you do? Why do you do it? Do you love it? Maybe you don't. Maybe what's the next step if you do this job? Usually it's like, if I do this so long and bang my head against the wall, then it gets better. And like, in my experience, yes, the income could go up, but what is the term of better? At the end of the day, like, you have to decide that for yourself. Again, like, what is my purpose? What do I want to accomplish? Maybe it's helping people. Maybe it's making a gazillion dollars, like whatever it is. If it's just ultimately being with the people you love, that's what we're all trying to find at the end of the day is like, what is our purpose? Why are we here? Like, how do we make that happen? You know?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned, you're a big motivator for you is to help people. And I don't think that's, trivial or trite at all. I think that's extremely compelling. I share the same motivation for doing what I do. A last question I have for you is that a lot of people don't like and don't want to work with financial advisors. And I was no exception up until January of 2019. And this is my own, so I can't speak for everybody else, but you mentioned the tail between the legs. Yeah, Alex, I was ashamed. Like I did not want you to know like what was going on under the covers, right? And it's like going to the doctor. You're filling out the form and it asks if you were a smoker and I'm like, well, does social smoking count? And then I think, well, I was really social for a lot of years. And so like with going to the doctor, you really can't hide and there can be a component of shame. What got me to work with you, all the books that I read, right? And realizing that I don't even cut my own hair. Now, if I did, it would look scary, right? And I could cut it, but I wouldn't look good. And hair is it's trivial. It doesn't really matter, right? And it does, but in the grand scheme of things, no. And money is extremely significant. It's how we do everything in this life. So with something so substantial, why wouldn't we seek help? And that's what really, honestly, that was the aha moment for me. It was like, oh my God, I don't cut my own hair, I don't paint my own nails. Like, why would I attempt to invest this, chunk of money or get out of debt in this component or make these plans? So for anyone listening who's like, I do not want to work with someone because maybe they have the same level of shame I had and they don't have the hair metaphor to help them out, what would you say to encourage them maybe to consider, working with someone like yourself? How do you help people get over that hurdle?
It's really hard in our industry to find the right advisor to work with as well. Um, I mean, I guess I feel like there's a lot of variation on our title. Like, I mean, like when you're going to the doctor's office, there's orthopedics, there's pediatrics, and each of them specialize in their own form of medicine. And you go to them at different points in your life. You go to the, you know, um, oncologist if you have cancer. Like, otherwise, you're not seeing that person. And I think that's what's hard in our industry. I mean, you just kind of see a blanket financial advisor. This guy's a financial planner. Oh, this guy's a wealth manager. It means nothing. Like, without standardization of like what our capabilities are, like you have no idea, you know? And that's where it's hard to, continue to find the right people to board your bus because your story can't get out the same way. Like, and I feel like that would be the same with you working with your own clients of like, your story is significantly different than probably the majority out there for your role in your recruiting and helping people, find their kind of life spark, in their next opportunity. And that's what's hard. I can't just put next to my title, like super awesome guy, loves people and really friendly. Like, I, you
Sure.
know, uh, we have, and I've probably shared it with you before, but it's like we have a list of 30 things. Like, here are 30 things that we will help you do. And, I have kind of a version of it right here, but it's, we have this nice little list of like, here's all of the things that we will help you with. And this is more than 30 of what we're looking at. But like, that's what I want, from my, auto mechanic is the guy that's not going to say, I can hear the squeaky wheel. It's probably the brakes. Well, let's check it out. And like, he's just going to fix the squeaky wheel. Well, maybe it's, the tire is off I don't even know anything about cars, but like maybe the tire is off the rim or something. I don't know. But I expect that person to figure it out and to like have full on like diagnostics done to figure out what that is. And like that's what I want to do for clients is show up and give them full diagnostics of like this is where you are. This is where you want to get to. Here's an action list of how to get from point A to point B. When, I think our industry, unfortunately, there is a lot of great financial advisors, but there's a lot of ones that are just kind of showing up, you know? And I want to show up for my clients every single time on a full level, that they can get comfortable with. It is a very uncomfortable topic about money. And like, I can tell you that 90% of people I meet with, they've literally only had this conversation with me and their spouse, maybe their kids if they're 80 years old, 70 years old, or older. They've maybe kind of brought them into the conversation. Otherwise, they're not talking about these things with people. And so, why wouldn't you have this person be at the forefront of your life, and probably worth paying for to have this person kind of help guide you through all these things? Because an investment advisor or a financial planner or a financial advisor, any of these people shouldn't be just, here's a nice little portfolio I put together for you. It has some mutual funds and ETFs in it. We'll sell some things from time to time and make it really nice for you. But they should be looking at like tax planning. We should be looking at risk management. We should be looking at cash flow and budgeting and life planning. Like, so my minor in college was psychology, which I couldn't tell you how much that has helped in the conversations that I have with people in and around money, because everything is driven by money and like emotion. And like, if we don't have emotion behind it, we're not going to act on it. Right. I mean, if it was super easy of like, I'm going to save 15% a year, I pay off my credit cards and I don't need to worry about it. Maybe that works, but maybe you want better. Maybe that will get me to a age 65 retirement. But what does it look like if I want to retire at 50? How do I need to change my habits to get me there? And that's why it's important to find the right person, because maybe they change your mindset of how do you get to a goal that you didn't even think was attainable.
Well, I really appreciate the validation that you provided here, because there is a sea of financial advisors, wealth management consultants, certified financial planners out there. They're hitting up my LinkedIn inbox every day. And it's really validating to hear that it can be challenging to know who is the right fit. And I think, to your point, a strong referral is really great. That's how I got synced up with you, and trusting your gut, because when I met with you, the first time we sat down, right, tail between the legs, I immediately felt at ease, like, okay, this is someone I can be vulnerable with. I still was ashamed, but I could be vulnerable. And I loved how you didn't look at us like just dollars and cents. You wanted to know more about what was motivating us, what our vision for our life was. You asked great questions, and I felt like a real flesh and blood person, which I appreciate. Being in the industry that I'm in, dealing with people, and like I said, sharing a similar ethos of attempting to help make people's lives better. Looking at people like a dollar sign gets you nowhere, and it violates trust, and people don't want to work with folks like that. So I really appreciate you validating that it can be challenging just looking at the titles and saying, like, it's not one size fits all. So I agree with you entirely. But well, I can't thank you enough for joining me today and chatting about this. Like I said, a lot of people in my orbit they're founder curious. They want to know what it could be like to go and start their own business. And I think, like we talked about, a big component is having that team, having the patience and resilience. And there's a whole bunch that goes into baking that cake. But like I said before, I am so grateful for you, and I couldn't do it without you. So thanks for doing this with me today, and for being in lockstep with me throughout this whole process.
For sure. Yeah. I was very happy to have a couple low with you and go through this conversation. But like, thank you, because this means a lot to me as well. I mean, it's a very big blessing to be asked, to be a part of this and, help you, be on your journey as well. So I really appreciate that.